I take notes on everything because I have a bad memory. My memory is so bad I've never done pot. I am afraid that if I do, I'll end up like that guy in Memento, but like a hungrier version of him. I'm especially afraid after I've had a little pot. So I write things down. But sometimes I don't have a lot of time, so I can only jot something down. Not the whole thing, just the most important part of it. But I have a bad memory. So sometimes I check my notes and they just say something like, there's not enough pig in this pig. I want to emphasize, this is not a dream journal. I was awake. I was aware it was the time of my consciousness cycle where I exchange goods and services for money and create smart things. I was thinking this very reasonable idea, but something else happened, so I could only write down the best part of that idea. That there was a pig, but there wasn't enough pig inside of it. To this day, I don't know what that means. Did I meet a guy at a bus stop and he was like half pig and half white dude? And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. My mom was a pig, but I like mayonnaise and can't dance. Like, I don't know if I'm being loyal to my roots. Am I a pig in a blanket? And like, I had to be all, no, man, no, there's no right way to be a part of your culture. And inside, I was like, there's not enough pig in this pig, man. He's just not going to make it. He's like 2 slices of toast that think they're a bacon sandwich. It's bad, man. It's bad. I'm afraid, and I know it's not, but like, I'm afraid it might be a sex thing. Like, it's a thing that people who have the same kinks that I have, like, they're out there laughing. Like, they get it. I don't see how it could be. Like, I'm not a hog fucker. I'm not a sow seeder. Not a piggy porker or a porky pigger. But then I didn't see myself being a man who owns a notebook that says there's not enough pig in this pig. This is Morning Perfect Base. I am Van Velding. I'm going to work on my perfect base every week. And in a few months, we will see how much progress I've made. Today, I am continuing to work on my garden. I plan to take out the floor in here, replace it with dirt, so that grass will grow, and then put some bone meal down, get some weeds, get some flowers, get some trees up in here, and make it a nice place. What I'm going to talk about today is the Picard show. They're making this new Picard show. They got Patrick Stewart back, and since all of the people closest to me feel the best way to acknowledge the frankly irrational amount of time and attention I pay to a TV show from 30 years ago is to ask what I think about the Picard show. You know. So I wrote this before they released the trailer last week. I'm just going to roll with it because I don't feel like writing it again. Here is what we know. It takes place a couple years after TNG. In years after TNG, where in is however long it's been since TNG for us. Patrick Stewart is in it. The producers feel that we, the culture, the country, their bank accounts need Picard right now. They pitched a plan for season 1 to Patrick Stewart, the guy who plays Picard. And Patrick Stewart says he only agreed to do it because he was emotionally moved by their pitch. It is called Star Trek Picard. We got a few leaked shooting photos, and we got a leaked video that was kind of used to sell the show to execs wherein Captain Picard, in civilian garb, approaches a bored-looking Starfleet officer who asks his name, and we cut to a fun, goofy reaction shot of Captain Picard being surprised. It's fun. It's a fun kind of little thing. Voyagers are kind of like Voyager uniforms, and then we got the actual trailer last week, which is someone saying, hey, look, so a while back you were part of a huge rescue effort, and then the unthinkable happened, and then you lost faith, and maybe you lost faith in us, maybe you lost faith in yourself, we don't know. So The bad thing that happened was probably the destruction of Romulus, as they talked about in the 2009 movie. And Picard helped rescue things, and then Starfleet did something bad, or the Romulans did something bad, or something went terribly wrong with the rescue effort. And Picard quit Starfleet. And that is all the additional information. So what I want to talk about today are the 10 things that I think, very cynically, are going to be in Star Trek Picard. The first one is that it's going to be trying to be TNG the same way Voyager and Enterprise tried to be TNG, except good, or maybe not good. And TNG is the most popular Trek, fight me nerds, and Picard is the most recognizable popular character from it. That is why, despite decades of trying, Michael Dorn has not gotten a Captain Worf show off the ground. I could dissect why Picard's so popular and he shouldn't be popular and all that kind of stuff, but I got a whole podcast about that called The Beige and the Bold, and I think you should listen to it. It's pretty good. Currently on hiatus, but we will be back in October. I mean, anyway, I don't think that Star Trek Picard is going to try and do anything that plenty of try-hard, also-ran Treks have not already attempted. It is the infinitum and ad infinitum. I mean, sure, it's not Rick Berman fucking things up with his ripped-off second hand trying to fuck Terry Farrell, complacent, sparkless, talentless, boring, and unoriginal beige hammy hands. So that alone is a reason to be optimistic. That said, Discovery chopped up Star Trek into slivers, slapped them into a pan, and served as hash browns. Orville made us like Happy Meal French fries, or maybe rally fries if rumors about the second season being really good are true. And J.J. Abrams distilled it into some vodka, bottled it to make a Molotov cocktail, and promptly threw it at his own dick. Even DS9, the best Star Trek since Star Trek that isn't Star Trek. To extend the metaphor, it's Rock the Gino with sour cream and chives. But for all of those departures, I fully expect Picard to be the safest thing you can do with Sir Pat Stew, the lightly buttered baked potato of Star Treks that preach some shallow liberal talking points that reminds us that Hollywood's lean to the left is very much culturable and fashionable and not ideological or principled in any kind of way. The flute, they're obviously going to have the flute. I don't want to quote Family Guy, but the flute is pretty core to the Picard things. They're going to have to show us. It feels deep and it reminds us of a really good episode that I always say is overrated, but that I always cry while watching, so maybe fuck me. It'd be nice if Picard is all, oh, I see the problem's happening, but my watch is over. And he tells someone his story about the flute earlier in the episode, and then at the end he sees the flute and he's all, oh, this current problem has little to do with the Ricketsian probe or my life as Cayman, but the Carpe Diem message of inner light can drive any plot compatible with the type DT-RT do the right thing character driver. So here we go again, and yeah, technically Carpe Diem is the lesson we got from Tapestry, and Savor the Moment is kind of the inner light thing, but I kind of doubt that anyone on the Picard production team has a distinction between those two, let's admit it, really generic but well-told lessons. I'm just saying, it's not going to be an Easter egg on a shelf over his left shoulder, or even on his desk. He's going to touch it. There's going to be camera focus, if not on the flute itself, then on Picard as he's considering it. Really contemporary politics. I'm judging the ceiling here because I got to dig into the level above, but then I got to dig into this level to make it into the brewing room that I have designed. So I got 2 squares of ceiling here. So I can dig into this one and make it dirt. But I got to watch out where the stairs are, because the area where the stair descends into the brewing room is obviously going to cut into the floor/ceiling paradigm there. Really contemporary politics. You guys thought the one where the endangered species was secretly keeping aliens from obliterating Earth lacked subtlety? Well, the one with the whales better go shopping for blue ribbons, because it is about to sweep second most obvious in social allegory in the Star Trek Social Message Awards. Look, Star Trek is here to say things about culture and politics. Even when the original series was saying things about Vietnam and the Cold War, the principles were broad enough that most of it remains relevant to this day. That said, the creators mentioning that the world need Picard now gives a clue that they believe the resurgence of global nationalist fervor that rote liberalism of wealthy institutions isn't equipped to handle needs dramatic action in the form of, it says here, a TV show with a respected, reasonable father figure giving quotes of rote liberalism about the inherent niceness of girding your loins with principles and calm contemplation can direct those quotes at folks who aren't shopping the local social niceties section of the Right and Wrong Mart because they're at a catastrophizing a loss of social power store and they are one leg into a pair of justifying genocide sweatpants. When what the world really needs now is Kira Nerys with a ninja sword and a gun that rips off guys' dicks and stabs them through the throats with their own erections. What the world needs now is the rampager from Rakanta listening to fuckboys explain their murder-based worldview before she adds them to her murder collage of the Bajoran MoMA. Collage boasting influences ranging from the Predator to Gregor Clegane to the OG original genocider of fuckboys, the Punisher. I'm just inviting you to imagine a chinless British crypto-fascist drowning in a fucking milkshake forever. Anyway, prepare for Picard speeches about using plastic straws, or how media that lies is bad, except when it's hard to be media, but also truth is good, maybe, because of course, mostly. Also, maybe punching Borg is bad. It only convinces them how chaotic the individual identity is. Chateau Picard. Okay, this one was completely blown out of the water by the actual fucking trailer. I was thinking the Picard family vineyard was going to get totally written off. Like, it's been in Picard's family for generations, and his traditional brother ran it with his wife and child until they all died in a terrible off-screen fire, something to which close, once-appearing family members are especially susceptible. So the reasonable thing, what we see in the future of all good things from before when his family died in a fire, is that Picard lives a simple life maintaining the family tradition of making wine. God forbid even taking a wife and raising a child, but we know that won't fucking happen. And aside, I never really considered the implications of Picard having 20 years of memories from all good things. I mean, he couldn't remember them well at first, but he became more lucid as the episode went on. Now, maybe that's because he was living in the moment and therefore only remembers as much as what we saw of the future, which is the easiest explanation, but he told his crew about the future to help them out. So, what if he did the same for his family, and then they burned in a fire, something which didn't happen before but did happen afterwards, therefore making it really his fault that happened? Of course, what if he did see the fire happen and they burned in the fire, something which didn't happen before but which did happen afterwards? Therefore, I skipped back in the script. But it would be totally fucked up if he saw it but didn't tell them, or then, like, it happened and then he's like, oh shit, yeah, I'm now remembering what happened, a thing that I remembered in the future where they all died in a fire. And I can't believe I didn't remember that and I let all my family die. That'd be bad. I would explain how deeply emotionally affects him in generations, though. Anyway, enough torturing Picard time travel theories based on convenient tension-raising plot devices. The vineyard will be there, and Picard won't run it. So it means that with nothing more than a throwaway line, like it felt more like Robert's place than mine, or when I got back it felt alien, or no one wants old wine anymore, or oh, there was a homeless Ferengi whiner or who I let run the place now, or some bullshit. Don't get me wrong, if Picard starts gallivanting around the stars just to siphon Federation diplomatic event money into his personal vineyard, I'll admit that I was wrong on this point. That's a very current politics thing. So that's going to count for double the one right before this. But, you know, we saw the trailer now, so none of that matters. We know he's actually going to be going there, and he's going to stop doing it by the end of the episode. Let's see. Kids these days, aka the Sorkin factor. Star Trek is great for venerating its aging actors, and that's great. Boston Legal mentioned the lack of television series' focus on older characters, despite the population of America being an aging population. That said, there's going to be shots where Picard pointedly doesn't say kids these days. I'm betting 4. 4 in the pilot, and then an average of 1 or 2 per episode for the rest of the season. Our not as old, not returning characters are going to be like the good ones who set themselves apart from their dull-eyed, complacent peers. At least when those peers aren't like listening to Cleon music and being generally uncivilized thugs. The next generation gets both guys, obedient drones, and barely raised by humans, signs that civilization cannot survive without a strong and constant hand from the previous generation. So yeah, so in the irony, and while it won't be a major theme, just a joke lol, it kind of has to be there because else why would a show even need Picard to settle up if the universe had birthed even one competent person since Stardate 40000.0? I don't expect a Jeff Daniels newsroom pilot ultimate meltdown rant. I mean, I kind of do. I just expect it to be distributed in aerosol form throughout the first episode of Picard. As a safety, I am also right about this. If there is a scene where A, anyone explains something to another person, and B, they are both walking together, and C, one of them is Picard, and either D, the receiving person reads and draws any information from what they're handed, or E, someone answers another person's question with a dryly funny line. I'm declaring victory on the Sorkin factor either way. Federation is the United States now. I bitch about this constantly. I mean, the next generation slowly slid into making the enlightened, self-driven, self-actualized citizens of the Federation into just regular folks, but with cool spaceships. None of Star Trek works if Federation citizens are like us, though. DS9 did away with almost all pretense, featuring foreign intervention by Starfleet starting a war which leveraged none of the Federation's principles of diversity. It then looked at all the flaws it had written into Star Trek and received hundreds of pats on the back for pointing out how unrealistic it all was. I don't know either, but I'm going to make an angry break for just a second here thinking about it. Okay, so I expect the creative team to kind of skip on the aspirationalist fuck button on the Star Trek machine, and then be completely baffled when that button makes a chugging sound and does nothing but suck their garbage into the stream of Golden Age television, where it's rendered just another piece of shiny floating garbage sailing briefly into and then out of the public consciousness. Watching Shakespeare, but not acting Shakespeare. I feel that maybe I'm belaboring this point, but Picard is going to appreciate himself some Shakespeare. He won't be in it. I mean, in a post-scarcity society, a retired man with an appreciation for the bard and no self-imposed restrictions on the face that he presents to his subordinates should be in. There's no reason he wouldn't be in like a lot of Shakespeare. Like, he should be directing, and then maybe he'd even be directing and acting so much he'd be sick of it. He might take a 1-hour ride from Le Bar, France to Cape Town because he's really entranced with what they're doing with the material down there. And he rides on a public shuttle or whatever, and you can see how diverse Earth is in the future and how the concept of a personally operated vehicle, which is antithetical to the idea of responsible, sustainable consumption, which should be the kind of pattern of behavior Star Trek would model in order to minimize it for our world or whatever. But you see, Picard isn't an actor. In the real world, there are performers and there are consumers, and we know Picard is a doer, so he can't be an actor. No matter how many lives an intelligent, motivated man in a society with no economic or informational boundaries could live, Picard will elementally be a modern version of a participant in modern culture. He won't be an actor for the same reason he won't be a Spacebucks barista. The weight carried by those actions actually, because there's no jobs, there aren't jobs. They aren't going to be something that you can assign to Picard because Picard is elementally Picard. He's unchanged and a consumer as we see ourselves, a hoarder of his own experiences, but doesn't make any for others. That is a flaw of modern storytelling, and it shudders under the second moment of thought about what Picard's future would be like. Papa Picard getting close, but not fully Last Jedi. This is kind of confirmed by the trailer where he quit Starfleet, which we kind of assumed that he did, but he's not going to want to do it. Whatever it is. I mean, I assume that's the whole thing. The first episode of Picard is like Picard's regular day. Then he learns about a thing, or he's summoned to Starfleet headquarters and they tell him they need him for the problem, or he just sees a problem while he's visiting and he asks a few questions, but then goes, no, they can take care of this, I'm out of it. Despite it being clear, very clear from our episode that they cannot take care of this. He's out. Audi 500 refuses the call. And then maybe like we get a few scenes like Tony Stark in Endgame where he still mulls it over, or maybe we just see his regular boring life and he doesn't really like it, but he's kind of chosen that, and so he's committed. And then he sees the flute or Starfleet stab at solving the problem fails, and he's all like, well, I gotta do this now. Well, I have to do this now. And he's not going to vanish or be a dick about it. He's just going to be reluctant and stick to his quiet life of retirement because whatever made him retire in the first place, which was super tragic. And then make a bullshit tragic moment or some politics issue, I'm sure. And then he's going to like pick up the mantle again. I also claim under this section if, like Luke, a literal ragtag band shows up and they need him to join him. Also points for blue milk. So this is good. This is running long, word-wise, and I'm going to just combine it. So the universe is all messed up, and there's this big new threat on the horizon. You might recognize this one because it's the plot of every post-Nemesis fan anything plus canon novels and half of the Star Trek Online expansions. It's big, it's stupid, it's boring as fuck, but that is what we are going to get. I mean, extra points to me if Earth blows up. I doubt they would do that, but that has set the tone for the stupid fuckery of the show if they do it. There's no way they blow up Vulcan again, though. I mean, it'd be hilarious, but that's a safe bet. I would love to make the planet Vulcan the Chief O'Brien of the Star Trek universe. Remember when the Centauri, or I don't fucking care about Enterprise. I don't. Suliban maybe did a 9/11 on Earth. Wow, that was some saran wrap thin allegory. It's like you could see the Twin Towers and the cheap CGI explosions. Fuck, Enterprise was bad. Thankfully, there's no analogous event in Star Trek Picard that they could rip off as poorly as Enterprise tried to do a 9/11. I mean, maybe Trump's election, but that would be like way too much, you know? I mean, there's nothing you could do but beat an anti-Trump drum if your inciting incident is a con person, being elected president of the Federation. So probably it'll be aliens with weird chips or something, you know, like the Yuuzhan Vong in Star Wars, where they were like immune to the Force. Whatever this group is will be immune to phasers or shields or something. I don't know. The Dominion. It's going to be the Dominion 2. And I think I'm being very generous by betting on Dominion 2 over President Space Cheeto. Final impromptu prediction. No matter how true the things I say about it are, no matter if it's real shit instead of Chris doesn't approve of Star Trek shit, which is closer to mediocre. I mean, even if it's real bad, like Picard says, women, and rolls his eyes, it's still going to be mega super TNG popular. People will watch that thing for 6 seasons waiting for it to get good, so none of this matters. I mean, there will be curmudgeons and fucking psychotics who hate it regardless. That's also true. And those guys won't necessarily be right unless I'm one of them. But it's going to be as popular as a pig-shaped pie. Now, that's what it meant.